Welcome to another audit walkthrough video from SuperfastCPA. I'm Logan, and in today's video, we're going to be going over Audit Area 2. This is Section C2, and this is a remembering and understanding topic. Understand the elements of an entity's control environment, including the design and implementation of IT general controls and entity-level controls. And we're going to be doing that the SuperfastCPA way, which is diving straight into the questions to learn the material. Now, if you don't know much about our strategies, make sure you go to SuperfastCPA.com and sign up for our free 1-hour webinar training. We go over the key ingredients to passing the CPA exam, and again, it's 1 hour, it's free, and we will show you how to pass the CPA exam without wasting months or even years of your time. So make sure you go check that out, and after you check that out, you're going to want to learn more, so make sure you also check out becoming a Superfast CPA Pro member. Superfast CPA Pro members get access to a lot of great stuff. They get access to the Pro course, where Nate explains in detail exactly what you're supposed to be doing every single day. You know, it's basically an expanded version of the 1-hour webinar. It goes a lot more in depth. And also Superfast CPA Pro members get access to the full 10-question versions of these videos. So just to make sure that's clear, in this video, we're only going to be going over 5 questions, but in the Pro member version, we are going to go over an additional 5 questions to make sure that they understand it and get a little bit more help. So if you like this and you like our other videos, make sure you become a Pro member of Superfast CPA because again, you will get access to the full versions of these videos. Now with all that, let's dive straight into the questions. Okay, here we are at question 1. Let's just dive straight in. Which of the following statements best describes the role of the control environment in an entity's internal control system? Now, one thing I will say, we did go over the components of the COSO internal control framework in the previous video, and the control environment is one of those components. Now, if you haven't watched that video, I would recommend watching it, but if you don't really know what this is talking about, that's okay. We're going to use this question to learn about it. So let's go through the options first. Option A, the control environment represents the processes, structures, and standards that provide the foundation for the establishment of internal control. Option B, the control environment is a set of specific procedures designed to detect and correct errors in financial reporting. Option C, the control environment is primarily concerned with the segregation of duties and transaction-level controls. Or option D, the control environment consists solely of the IT general controls, or ITGCs, that protect the organization's information systems. Now again, if you don't really know what the control environment is, that's okay. We learned about it in the previous video, but if you need to learn about it here, that's okay. We're going to dive straight into the answer to look at the explanation to understand what this is talking about. So let's go ahead and go to the explanation. Okay, here we are. The answer is A. The control environment represents the processes, structures, and standards that provide the foundation for the establishment of internal control. Okay, so again, you probably would have understood that if you had watched the previous video or if you just have an idea of the control environment already. But let's go through the explanation to kind of get an idea of what we're talking about in this video. The control environment is the foundation of an organization's internal control system, setting the tone at the top and influencing employees' attitudes towards controls. It includes management's philosophy, governance participation, organizational structure, and personnel policies. These elements create the structure for how internal controls function across the entity. The other options are incorrect because B refers to transaction-level controls rather than the broader control environment. C focuses only on segregation of duties, which is a control activity. By the way, that's one of the components, a separate component from control environment. And D is too narrow, as IT general controls are only one part of internal control, not the entire control environment. A strong control environment ensures that ethical behavior, accountability, and oversight are embedded in an organization, making all other internal controls more effective. If the control environment is weak, even well-designed controls may fail. So essentially, it's trying to get at that the control environment is basically the standard, it's the base that you have to be able to establish the other parts of internal control. You have to have a good environment, which usually has to do with management, and that's called the tone at the top. If management has good ethics, if they are establishing good controls and enforcing those good controls so that the employees also feel like they have to follow the controls, that's kind of the big idea behind the control environment. It all comes down to what we mentioned, the philosophy of the management, the governance participation, how are they participating, organizational structure, and personnel policies. All of these things have to do with the environment where the internal controls are being implemented. And with a weak control environment, then no matter how good the controls are, or no matter how the other components of the COSO framework are implemented, they could still fail if the control environment is weak. Now with that, in the first question, we've learned quite a bit about the control environment. Now let's go to the next question to learn some more. Okay, here we are at question 2. How does management's philosophy and operating style contribute to an entity's control environment? Okay, now based off the first question, you might already be able to kind of think through this, but let's go through the options. Option A, by determining the specific IT security measures used to protect financial data. Option B, by ensuring that transaction-level controls, such as reconciliations, are performed accurately. C, by setting expectations for ethical behavior, risk management, and decision-making across the organization. or D, by focusing on the design of formal policies without regard to management's actions or decision making. Now, again, with all that, based off the first question, you might be able to kind of read through this and kind of pick your way through and find one or two that are more correct than others. So if you want, go ahead and pause the video, and when you're ready, come back, we'll look at the answer together. Okay, here we are at the answer C, by setting expectations for ethical behavior, risk management, and decision making across the organization. So that's kind of what management philosophy and operating style have to do with the control environment. Let's dive into the explanation. Management's philosophy and operating style help shape the control environment by influencing how risks are managed, how ethical standards are enforced, and how employees perceive internal controls. A proactive, risk-aware, and ethical management team fosters a strong control environment, while a passive or inconsistent approach can weaken controls and create uncertainty. The other options are incorrect because A is too narrow and specific to IT security, B focuses on transaction-level controls, and D incorrectly assumes that formal policies alone define the control environment, ignoring management's actual behavior and leadership. Now, the idea of this question is to reinforce the idea that a lot of this has to do with management's behavior and their actions and how they are implementing the controls. If management's philosophy isn't aligned with good internal controls, and if they're not living it, if they aren't living ethically, then that creates a bad control environment. A lot of this comes back to, again, the tone at the top. Now we learned a little bit more there. Let's go to the next question. Okay, here we are at question 3. Which of the following best describes entity level controls? Okay, so we're moving on to a little bit of a different topic here, but this is still part of the blueprint. Let's go to the options. Option A, controls that are only relevant to financial reporting and have no impact on operational or compliance objectives. Option B, detailed procedures designed to prevent and detect errors within specific transaction cycles. Option C, automated system controls that validate the accuracy of data entry in financial applications. Or option D, controls that apply broadly across the organization and influence the effectiveness of other internal controls. So again, which one of these best describes entity level controls? If you don't know what those are, that's okay. Again, we are using these questions to learn about these different things. So if you want, pause the video and think through this. If not, let's go ahead and go to the answer together. Okay, here we are. The answer is D, controls that apply broadly across the organization and influence the effectiveness of other internal controls. That's the idea behind entity level controls. And that kind of makes sense. It's broad, it's across the whole organization. Let's go through the explanation. Entity level controls, or ELCs, are high-level controls that affect the entire organization rather than just a specific process. They set the foundation for how risks are managed and influence the effectiveness of more detailed transaction-level controls. Examples include corporate governance structures, risk management policies, and the organization's overall ethical culture. So a lot of the entity-level controls kind of go back to what we were just barely talking about that tone at the top, about how management is structuring things, how they are living things. All those things very similar to, or really just have to do with, the entity level controls. The entity level controls are directly connected to the tone at the top. The other options are incorrect because A is too narrow, as entity level controls impact not just financial reporting but also operational and compliance areas. B refers to process level controls, and C describes IT application controls rather than entity-wide governance. So that's kind of a general overview of entity level controls. Again, we're not diving super deep into them because you just kind of need to know the general idea. Again, very related to the tone at the top, to management, to how they are running things, to how they are structuring things. Now let's go to the next question. Okay, here we are at question 4. Which of the following is the primary purpose of IT general controls, or ITGCs? Okay, let's go through the options. Option A, to verify that all financial transactions are recorded accurately in the general ledger. Option B, to ensure that IT systems operate reliably and securely, supporting the integrity of financial and operational processes. Option C, to monitor individual transactions for signs of fraud or errors within a specific business process. Or option D, to prevent employees from accessing any financial information unless they work in the accounting department. Okay, so again, which one of these sounds like it would have to do with IT general controls? If you have any idea, or if you want to pause the video and kind of read through these, again, frequently when you are working with audit, you will almost always be able to kind of narrow it down to one or two options that are obviously more correct than the other ones. So if you want, pause the video and come back when you're ready, and we'll look at the answer together. Okay, here we are at the answer B, to ensure that IT systems operate reliably and securely, supporting the integrity of financial and operational processes. Again, that one might have been kind of easy because this one mentioned IT and the other ones didn't, but you have to pay attention to be able to do that. So let's walk through the explanation. IT general controls are policies and procedures that apply across an organization's IT environment to ensure that systems are reliable, secure, and function as intended. They help safeguard data integrity by controlling access, managing system changes, and ensuring backup and recovery procedures are in place. These controls support financial and operational processes by maintaining a stable and secure IT infrastructure. Now, we kind of gave a really good general overview of the IT general controls right there. So I would recommend pausing the video for a second, kind of understanding those different points, or writing out, kind of summarizing what you learned from that paragraph, because again, you can apply what you just learned in that paragraph to other questions about IT general controls. Now let's talk about the other options. The other options are incorrect because A refers to financial statement accuracy, which is influenced by ITGCs but not their primary purpose. C is more aligned with transaction level monitoring, which falls under IT application controls, not general controls. And D is too restrictive. ITGCs manage access controls broadly, not just financial data restrictions. So again, these general controls are kind of general across the whole organization. They are there to make sure that things are reliable, secure, they function as intended, all the things we just talked about across the whole organization when it comes to IT. It's not specifically for applications or specifically just for financials and things like that. Now with that, let's go to the next question. Okay, here we are at question 5. What is the primary objective of data security controls within an organization? Okay, let's walk through this. Option A, to protect sensitive information from unauthorized access, modification, or deletion. Option B, to ensure that financial statements are free from material misstatements due to fraud or error. Option C, to improve system processing speeds and reduce IT maintenance costs. Or option D, to automatically detect and correct errors in transaction level data without human intervention. Okay, we haven't talked about data security level controls specifically yet, but based on what we learned in the previous question, I bet you could pause the video and think through this and at least come up with one or two that are more correct than the others. And when you're done, we'll look at the answers together. So pause the video if you need to, and when you're ready, come back, we'll look at the answer together. Okay, here we are. The answer is A, to protect sensitive information from unauthorized access, modification, or deletion. Again, that is the primary objective of data security controls. Let's dive into the explanation. Data security controls are designed to protect an organization's information assets from unauthorized access, tampering, or loss. This includes restricting access to sensitive data, monitoring changes to critical files, and ensuring that only authorized users can modify or delete information. These controls help safeguard financial records, customer data, and other critical business information from cyber threats and internal misuse. So again, the idea here is to make sure that the information is protected. The other options are incorrect because B focuses on financial reporting rather than data security, C relates to IT performance rather than security, and D describes error detection, which is more aligned with IT application controls, not data security controls. So data security controls kind of have to do with IT controls, and so this is something that it will be helpful for you to understand. Remember, again, the idea here is to protect information. Now with that, we've learned a lot in just 5 questions. Before we do anything else, let's do one more part of the SuperfastCPA process called pillar topics. Now the idea behind pillar topics is as you're going through the questions to learn the material, you will notice the things that keep popping up. You've seen 2, 3, 4 questions trying to teach you about the tone at the top in the control environment, or maybe about data security controls, or whatever the case is. You notice these things popping up in the questions in your review course. So you take a moment, you write these pillar topics out in your own words so you know what is most important for test day. And as you do this each day, you are building your own personal repository of the most important things you need to know for the exam based on the questions you learned from in your own words. Now with that, let's go ahead and go to the pillar topics for this video. Okay, here we are at the pillar topics. Let's just dive straight in. First, let's talk about control environment as the foundation. The control environment establishes the overall tone for internal controls, influencing how employees view and follow control procedures across the organization. Let's talk about management's philosophy and operating style. This has a lot to do with that control environment as the foundation. Leaders' attitudes towards ethics, risk management, and decision-making shape the culture and directly affect how strongly or weakly controls are enforced. Now let's talk about entity-level controls. These broad organization-wide controls influence the success of more detailed process controls, covering areas like governance, risk assessment, and ethical culture. Again, those have a lot to do with the management's philosophy and their operating style and stuff like that. Now let's talk about the purpose of IT general controls. ITGCs ensure that systems are secure, stable, and function as intended, supporting both financial and operational processes by maintaining reliable technology infrastructure. And then finally, the primary objective of data security controls, this has to do with IT general controls. Data security controls are designed to protect sensitive information from unauthorized access, alteration, or loss, safeguarding the integrity and confidentiality of critical data. And with that, we've gone over the pillar topics for this video, and that is the end of the YouTube version of the video. Again, we've gone over 5 questions and the pillar topics. Remember, if you become a pro member of SuperfastCPA, you will get access to the full 10-question version of the video, where we're going to go over another 5 questions to make sure that this makes more sense. So if you like this, make sure you check out becoming a pro member. the easiest way to do that is by actually first going to SuperfastCPA.com and signing up for our free 1-hour webinar training. You'll learn a lot about our process in that 1 hour, and it's the easiest path to becoming a pro member. So check out the webinar. It's free. It's 1 hour. Make sure you watch that, and then you'll be able to become a pro member more easily. Now, with all that, if you liked the video, make sure to like it and leave a comment. I hope this was helpful, and I will see you in the next video.